Hello everyone, Michael here for Tactica Imperialis with a very special 40k video. Today I am joined by both Kieran and Commissar Warwick.
Hello everyone, pleasure to be here.
Yes, thank you very much for being here. Today we are doing a 7th edition discussion. Now 7th edition is about 1 year old ish, and obviously we've had a lot of time to get used to it and we've come up with some opinions on what we think of the game. And we've actually done this video in 2 parts. So this, as you will have noticed by the title, is part 2. If you're looking for part 1, there will be a link in the description which will take you over to Warwick's channel where we did the first half of this discussion. Now, you don't have to watch that to watch this. There are 2 standalone videos, but I thoroughly recommend...
Should I turn that off?
No, it's okay. Kieran's making a coffee. Don't ignore that background noise. But if you want to watch that, absolutely do that, and if you haven't already, go and subscribe to Warwick's channel, all the usual things that you guys are great at doing. Right, so let's rock on with this, and I want to start with the new armies that have come out in 7th edition. And I don't mean codices like Eldar, Necrons, all the updated codices, I don't mean that. What I mean is the new armies, by which I mean Harlequins, Admech, all those sorts of things. That have come out now to make the game what it is. So let's start with Warwick. What do you think of these new armies?
It's a difficult one for me because in principle I'm 100% behind the more armies you can get in the game, the better.
Yeah.
The reason being, I think no one wants to have just Space Marines against Space Marines, just Space Marines and Space Marines and Space. So the more diversification you can get in the hobby, the better.
Yep.
I did a video a while back called "Should They Bring Out a New Race in 40k?"
Yeah.
And people seemed to enjoy that video because basically what I threw out to people was, if they introduced a new race, what would you like to see? And generally, I think people are excited by the idea of new armies, new races, new takes, new play styles, new factions. Everyone's behind that.
Yes, we are.
On paper, all good, all good. The more of these they can bring out, the better. Then, if you wanted to be cynical, you could say cash grab. You could say, they just want us to buy more codexes. They want us to, get more supplements and stuff.
Yeah, agreed.
I think the issue for myself personally, and this is an issue just for me mainly, I wouldn't say this applies to that many people. I know there's a few of us out there, I'm sure. I don't like the kind of supplements and diversification and different data sheets and so on and so forth. Purely for the reason that I fear I like everything to be concise and in one book. This is my codex that I own. This is what everything I play is in. Because I feel you could end up with, okay, here's my Tyranid army. Here's my Tyranid codex. Here's the High Fleet Leviathan supplement. Here is the Shield of Bale supplement. Here is the data sheet for the drop pods. Here's, another data sheet. And where does it kind of end? I like everything to be just in one book. So for me personally, I want everything in one hardback book, but that's probably just me. So
no, I get that. I do understand that logic because I did find it annoying at first to juggle between 2 different books. Like if you were running a Forge World unit or you wanted to run a formation from a supplement like Warg Azkul, and then you need to go back to the Alt Codex to remember all the things that unit did. It does get annoying, but we do all our stuff via online PDF documents, so it's less bad for us than I can imagine it would be for you. I can only imagine how bad it would be turning up at a game and then opening Codex and all of a sudden my data sheets have fallen out. I can't use my army anymore.
Or having to bring more codexes than army. So you've got like your stack of codexes, you've got your big rule book. So you got your Tyranid, your High Fleet Leviathan, Shield of Baal supplements, and then data sheets on top of that. So your stack of books is actually bigger than your carry case. I can imagine that being an upsetting moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why, personally for me, although I like the fact, who wouldn't want to play a Harlequins army? It's cool as hell you have that option. Wouldn't it be good if there was some way you could kind of fold the 2 into have your Harlequins in your Elder Codex and then also have the supplement if you want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Sort of like...
to get the supplement as well. I don't know, it's a difficult one.
I think a good example of that is Tempestus or Stormtroopers, as you seem insistent on calling them. They are still in the Guard Codex, but they have their own supplement.
Yeah, which is awesome. That's cool, because, I'm planning when I expand my Guard to field a full Minotaur Tempestus platoon. And I can do that as part of the Guard Codex. It'd be kind of annoying for me if I had to go get the Tempestus supplement in order to field them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's a careful balance of giving you the diversification, but also making it so you don't end up with 50 books.
Yeah. One thing we noticed, and I dropped on this with the AdMech, is that they're all under one tagline with separate titles. So the Skitari Codex is Adeptus Mechanicus, Skitari, and the Cult Mechanicus, Adeptus Mechanicus, Cult Mechanicus. So
the Knights now, Adeptus Mechanicus, Imperial Knights.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
But one thing that may happen is that we get what I'm going to term a super codex, where you stick all of the codices under one tagline, like all the Eldar ones, all the AdMech ones, into one massive codex, which admittedly would
Well, you started seeing it now with Space Marines, haven't you? Because you've got Codex. Are they now all under the same Adeptus Astartes tagline?
I would have to look it up whether that's happened with
Dark
Marines.
Angels one was the same, but I'll check.
Yeah, it's something that I think a super codex might be something useful.
Yeah, definitely. And you can say the same thing about, use the example of the Adeptus Mechanicus there. You can say the same thing about Eldar, because it's Eldar Craftworlds, Eldar Harlequins, and then is it Eldar Dark Eldar, or is that?
No, the Dark Eldar one's not been updated yet.
Okay, fair enough. But then you've got sort of a banner heading of Eldar, and then the different ones are in there.
Yeah, and considering the fact
I'd be completely behind a super codex.
And considering the fact that Harlequins are so intrinsic to some of the lore behind Eldar and Dark Eldar, and they are the reason the two armies can fight together in the first place, am I right?
Majority of the time, yeah.
Yeah, so why are they not?
But then you've got to look at the new formations, the new Allies Matrix, which is a lot more forgiving now for these sort of fluffy alliances. You can take unlimited allied detachments. So, although you've got to buy more codexes, there's no reason you should have to clump them all together in order to play whatever you want. So...
Okay, yeah. Well, that actually leads on really nicely into our second discussion topic of the day, detachments and formations. Let's start with detachments. None of us you play an army with a detachment. I play an army with a detachment. Your Blood Angels now have a detachment, I assume.
Kind of. We have our own Force Org.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, but there's a slight difference between detachments and your own Force Org.
Yeah, because detachments are... we'll go with that.
Yeah, but when...
Necrons, for example, you've got your Decurion and you take auxiliary detachments within that. Blood Angels is still just Force Org, but it's a unique Force Org.
Yeah, it's a formation of formations, and I think that until every army gets its Decurion, we are going to have some issues.
And I don't want to be that Blood Angels player, as I have been so much recently.
Yeah.
But one thing that is kind of, it's a moment. Necrons came out, they got their Decurion, they got their detachments and stuff.
Yeah.
Blood Angels, we don't have a Decurion, we don't have detachments and stuff. We have Force Org.
Yeah.
Our Force Org has an extra elite slot. That's
Woo!
it. It's basically just the same as Force Org. And then after that, they carried on bringing out codexes and they have them. So why did they skip one and then give everyone else their Decurion? It doesn't.
Yeah, I get you.
Sense to me.
I get you.
There should be one consistent policy, and they should kind of have some kind of. It's like the dude who wrote Blood Angels missed the meeting, and he just went, "Oh wait, you don't get a Decurion." It doesn't make sense to me.
I think the reason Blood Angels didn't get one is because Marines hadn't come out yet.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, I think the detachments thing is nice, but I think it's something that I'll probably drop on the next time I get a new codex is that, well, on a very selfish perspective, analysing it is going to be a pain in the arse.
Yeah.
And also, it's a formation of formations, meaning that you have to know all the rules for all the formations in your army, or spend about an hour of your game flicking through your codex to find out what all your formations do.
Well, in all honesty, it's a really nice sales technique, because it forces you to buy subpar units.
Vipers.
For instance, Vipers aren't that bad actually, but Harlequins, every formation you take, barring the one that's like a single troop and two guys, has a Void Weaver in it, which is without a doubt, it's not bad, but out of all the Harlequin things, it's the worst one, and it's the one you'd be least likely to take because it's your heavy support slot. But if you want to run multiple formations, you have to buy multiple Void Weavers.
Yeah, and the same with Necrons. Their primary core detachment requires Tomb Blades.
Yeah.
And Tomb Blades suck.
Literally about to say that. No one ever took Tomb Blades. Now you have to if you're running a Decurion. Yeah.
I bet Miles was dead chuffed.
Yeah. So you had all these Tomb Blades sitting up on a shelf in Games Workshop's headquarters going, how do we sell these? Well, if you have to fill them to form the main detachment, you're going to have to buy a couple. So,
Yeah, I can just imagine the Orcs one being, I don't know, a unit of war buggies.
Yeah,
Please.
that's so true.
If it's Gretchen, fine. I'll take 1,000,000 grots. That's fine. But please, not war buggies. Please. Okay, so that's detachment. Go on.
So there's that issue, but overall, detachments are cool, right? They're kind of quite nice.
They can be fluffy.
Yeah, they're really nice with themed lists and things, because you can be like, right, well, it's the same with the custom codices. You've got, right, I wanted to run this theme list, and now I have an incentive to run it, as opposed to it just being a collection of models.
Yeah, and formations do even more of that.
Yeah.
Because while they do sometimes give you units that are piles of garbage, they will very often give you some really nice bonuses with no tax. And they'll allow you to do something fun. Go on.
The bonuses you get are often very good.
Mm.
So Dark Angels, if you take their primary Decurion detachment or Lion Braid Strike Force, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
It means everything in the detachment that has Grim Resolve overwatches at full ballistic skill.
Yeah. Excuse me, how that's not broken?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily broken.
Hello, I'm an orc player.
Yeah, for Tyranids and Orcs, it's kind of horrible. Yeah.
Kinda.
For Harlequins, it's worse. I've got the same saves as you, but my guys are 4 times as expensive. I've still got to get into combat to do anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, but the thing is, it's not broken because assaulting isn't that good in the game, so people gravitate towards shooting, and it's not going to...
Yeah, I think we should probably touch on shooting and assault later on in this video, but what about... we're still going on about detachment, because that Lion's Blade thing is still the detachment. There are some formations that are really cool and have almost mitigated the damage that Unbound could have done, because we can run Unbound, quote-unquote, Unbound lists by taking formations.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? They kind of... As a bluff old traditionalist, I kind of miss the idea. There's a part of me that misses the days of a basic HQ, but it's kind of a basic force org. But I guess it's kind of cool because we talked about in part 1 of this video about how having options is kind of never a bad thing. You're never forced to do anything.
Yeah.
So you've got the option. If you want, you can go Unbound. If you want, you can follow force org, and if you want, you can take a bunch of detachments, which is kind of like a weird hybrid of the two. It's not force org, but it's not Unbound because you're taking things, but in a certain... It's interesting. It gives you options, and I think we're all behind options. I think really.
We definitely noticed that with the new armies. We are behind diversification. We are behind.
Well, in a weird way, bringing out more things almost balances the game more, because you've got more to plan for, so you've got to take a more standardised list. Plus, it means that because of allies, you can ally in counters to anything you've got a problem with. So Guard have a problem with high armour saves.
Yes, we do.
So 2+ saves have got no chance. So you can bring in some AdMech with
lots
their
of
counter-front destroyers or whatever they are, with their
grab spam.
Grab weapons.
Or if you are an orc player, I have a real problem with walkers because I have to get into assault with them. Now I can just bring along guys with lances and say thank you very much, we're bow.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. But yeah, I think the bottom line there is, as we've said with so much of the 7th edition stuff, I find with 7th edition there's been little that's universally that is just perfect. There are no issues. But overall we like it.
Yeah, I think the quote I used at the end of our video a year ago was, it's a sandbox. You can do what you like with it.
Yeah.
Okay, right, moving on. This is an interesting question. Now, for those of you who still remember, 6th edition was 2 years old when it died and was replaced by 7th. Now, 7th edition is already 1 year old. Does that mean in 1 year's time we're going to get 8th edition?
Well, I think it's a slippery slope when you try and second guess what Games Workshop are going to do, because it's, as I say, there are certain things they do which kind of seem baffling to me. So certain things they do seem very clever and very predictable. You're like, okay, they're clearly going for this sort of, that's what they're going for. And then occasionally they'll throw you up something which makes everyone go, huh?
Yeah.
So, as an example, we touched upon a second ago.
Blood
We're
Angels.
now doing detachments. Everyone's got a Kieran detachment and stuff, and that's the way it's going. And then Blood Angels don't have that.
Yeah.
But everyone else does. It's like, why? I thought you were doing that as a theme. Why is that?
Yeah, let's not go on a Blood Angels rant. That's for another time.
But I'm just saying, sometimes they will throw up things which make you're not really sure where they're coming from. So second guessing whether in a year we'll get 8.
I honestly don't think it will.
I'm not sure.
Purely because of Age of Sigmar. because they've got Age of Sigmar, they brought out the new rules. There's lots of models supposedly coming out in the pipeline. There's got to be new stuff because it's a new game. So with all their time being put into that, can they really completely revamp 40k at the same time?
But here's the thing: Age of Sigmar doesn't have many rules.
No.
It will not take them more than probably a few weeks to write the rules for
No,
each
but
faction.
they're bringing out lots more models at a constant rate. That's the whole point of the Age of Sigmar War Scrolls thing. So
Yeah, but
I feel like there's going to be a lot going into that for the next at least half a year before they start turning back to 40k again.
Fair point. Fair point. Also, I don't think 7th is as broken as 6th was.
In general, and I guess this is kind of apt because we're getting towards the concluding sort of stage of this video. In general, 7th edition is better than 6th.
Oh, yeah.
And I think with 6th, there was a lot of issues that were getting people annoyed. Apparently, a lot of people were leaving the hobby and they were having issues selling kits and they were kind of struggling.
Yes, we did hear a lot of scaremongering about GW is going bust, or nobody's buying things, or everyone's leaving, and that seems to have dried up.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of that talk. Videos going GW's going bust and stuff. And
But then there was a recession.
this seems to have 7th edition appears to have fixed a lot of the issues that people were getting annoyed about. And I guess you could say that maybe 7th edition, not necessarily a panic release, but let's sort this out now. And now they've kind of shored up 40k a bit. They don't need to bring out a new edition every 2 years.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a very good point.
But what I would say, whether they're going to do it, whether they need to do it, whatever issues, personally for me, definitely don't bring out a new edition every 2 years. New editions of the game should be done every 4 or 5 years, not every 2 years.
Yeah, my wallet can't cope.
Yeah.
For a start, spending 50 quid on a rule book every 2 years is
No.
Don't make me do that. Don't abuse your customers. We spend enough on this hobby as it is. Don't force us to spend.
Yeah.
And then also within that as well, whenever there's a new edition, there's swing in the game, there's new rules to learn. If every 2 years you have to learn not a completely new rule set, but a new rule set, a new blah 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 blah. You have to adapt your army. You can no longer take this because of that.
Yeah.
It just messes with your army, and you're having to completely redo your armies and sort things out and change things and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
2 years, it's horrible. And I want to make one thing completely clear here, because I did a video when 7th edition came out beforehand, saying I didn't support bringing out a new edition every 2 years. And people were like, well, no, a new edition's good because blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying new editions are bad. New editions are a good thing, but not every 2 years is the difference.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I follow you on that one.
Well, an agreement there. I find we still end up playing rules wrong that were played in 6th ed, and then you look and be like, well, that rule doesn't exist anymore.
I'm still playing 5th ed.
Yeah.
I'm still playing 5th ed rules and getting things wrong.
Exactly. It takes a couple of years to get used to a system. So if they bring out a new system every 2 years before you've even got used to the last system, where does it end?
Yeah, fair point. Right. I think that actually leads on to... Let's throw a hypothetical 8th edition into the ring. Let's call it 2 years' time. GW decides, right, we want to write 8th edition. And they ask the community, what would you want to do with 8th edition? 5 things you would fix.
Point number 1, if you don't mind me jumping in straight away.
Yep, go for it.
You touched on it yourself. One thing we were hoping for when 7th came out that didn't materialise was a rebalance of the meta to swing a little bit towards assault.
Yes.
What we don't mean by that is I want assault armies to be OP because I play Blood Angels and Tyranids and I want them to be really, really, really OP. That's not what we're saying. We're saying at the moment the meta is swung in favour of shooting. Could we not have a slight rebalance to make it a little bit more even?
I feel like the easiest way of doing that would be forced terrain. So like, the Age of Sigmar where you roll for each of your table 6ths and you put down X many pieces of terrain. If your tables clogged with more terrain are much more forgiving for assault armies because you've got places to hide.
Although you are going a lot slower. What I have found though is assault is still strong. The only problem is getting there.
Yeah, well that's what the terrain helps mitigate.
It's the delivery system, and I think maybe Overwatch needs to go.
No, because then Overwatch is quite a nice, unique part of the game, and if you look at things like Zone Mortalis, where it's not terrain, but it's forced, blind of sight blocking areas. Assault very much rules, so they've had to improve Overwatch there.
Yeah.
In order to give shooting armies a chance. So I feel like if you play with more terrain, assault armies play better.
I think one of the things is nerf ignores cover.
Or at least get less of it.
Maybe if it rather than ignoring it, it
there's so much
removed
stuff
like
where
lowered cover
you're
saves.
trying to run your salty Tyranids across the board, whatever, and you're relying on, you can do things like cover saves and stuff to try and get around. Then it's just like, well, no, sorry, you don't get cover, you don't get any armor, so you guys are dead before you even got there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a psychic power that does it in divination, which is one of the most used disciplines out there.
Yeah, just maybe if ignores cover is like -2 to your cover or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's quite nice, because I mean, it gets rid of the cover save for intervening units, taking it down to 0, but if you're in a building, you've got a 6-up.
Yeah, exactly, which makes it's still not, but like, because for me, what the problem with all of this stuff is 40k is fun because you roll dice and fun things happen when you're rolling dice.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've got my unit and I'm shooting at your orcs, and it's like, I shoot, I roll, I hit, and you're like, okay, well, I get my armor.
No.
So you don't get your armor. So you're like, okay, well, at least I get cover. It's like,
No.
well, you don't get cover. Well, at least I get so you don't get anything. It's
You don't get to roll any dice.
Yeah, I mean, it does.
Where's the fun in that?
Yeah, taking off chunks of models without rolling a dice sucks.
Yeah, and it's if you've got the other day I had a Basilisk snipe with a 3-up cover save, and if I'd made that 3-up, I rolled a 1. But it was still, at least I didn't feel cheated by that, because it's like, I failed my save, that's unlucky.
Yeah.
It was just like, sorry mate, you got to remove that model. Like, do I get to save? No, just gone.
Yeah. So.
I'm getting on a bit of a tangent there, but I think
No, that's a good fix. Fixing, maybe not fixing ignores cover, just like a cover modifier would probably be a better way of going about things. Now this is something we've noticed playing Age of Sigmar, and we noticed it playing Fantasy. Rend.
I like the AP system for 40k. It's a lot easier than Rend.
Like modifiers to armor saves rather than just flat out ignoring it.
It used to have it though, and they had to get rid of it because it just got complicated.
Did it? All right.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Was it like 4th ed or something?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
One thing I found in 5th edition was, in 5th edition there was a lot more AP2. So like all power weapons were AP2.
Yeah.
And it was just so, like, armor saves were just not even really a thing.
Yeah.
So if you have one power sword in a unit, you're like, well, if I run into Terminators, whatever, I've got an AP2 weapon in.
Yeah, my Meganobs have absolutely been counting their blessings that nobody runs power axes anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's where, in 6th edition, you had the rise of Plasma. And that's because so much AP2 had been gotten rid of, and Plasma was still AP2, that you could still double tap AP2 stuff, so Plasma became really, really good.
It did.
So, yeah, a bit of a tangent, but yeah, that's go. I don't know if they necessarily have to rejink what's.
I think the whole armor save and armor save modifier thing, it works fairly well, as I'm aware. I feel like there's too much just stuff that has like AP5 and AP6 slapped onto it for no reason.
Yeah, there's not a lot of AP3 in the game. Like, I've noticed that a lot of codex analysis I do, I say the words not good against Marines more times than I've drawn breath.
Yeah, also, another thing is, on the topic of assault versus shooting, another reason that assault is an issue is that chain swords and choppers and stuff, none of that has AP, whereas generally basic sort of bolter weapons, they all have AP5 or 6.
Yeah.
So your assault marines, they get 3 attacks on the charge, but they're not getting any AP, whereas your marine double tap, it's got AP5, so it's kind of better against the.
Yeah, and I find that it's absolutely punishing at times.
Well, just playing your guard, I don't think you've ever rolled many armor saves for them other than in melee.
Yeah, I only roll armor saves in melee for my guard army, so.
Precisely. So it's another issue of assault. So maybe that could give chain swords an AP. Maybe give choppers.
I think chain swords are already AP6. I feel like choppers and chain swords are AP6, but what has a 6-up save besides a termagant and an orc? Nothing.
Yeah.
Or an occultist.
Yeah.
Yeah, true, but I feel like it just symbolically it makes sense to me, like more than how practical it is, like.
Yeah, but that as much as that I understand that, I think really, you read lore of orcs with a chopper being so strong they can tear a man in half, and why then a chopper cannot break through flak armor? I've got
which weapons AP5. Orc with a chopper, AP6. So a witch with like a little net with some barbs on it and a spear can completely tear flak armor apart. An orc with this massive axe or whatever it is can't. It just doesn't make sense.
I know orcs kind of have that sort of comedy reputation, but orcs are meant to be terrifying. They're
Yeah.
8 foot tall, swinging
Yeah.
an axe at you. Like,
Yeah,
it
look,
doesn't make sense.
I
to me.
take out. I
It's like
take
a bad
out.
night out.
Excuse me 1 second. Oh dear. Right. Okay. I've recovered. Okay. So yeah, there's a few fixes. Buffing assault / nerfing shooting by reducing cover or by reducing the power of Ignor's cover.
This is a minor sort of Commissar Warwick point as well, but
Go
they
on.
need to change the rules for Lookout Sir. This probably doesn't come up too much from many people, but for me, that's an issue.
Company commanders get shafted by Lookout Sir because they're not independent.
Oh yeah, it's a fair point. But Lookout Sir, I not many people do this, and I won't get too on a tangent here. But I've seen people do it where they take an independent character with a very good armor save.
Stick him right at the front, and then he tanks all the wounds. And if anything comes at AP2, they Lookout Sir on a 2+.
Yeah. So
Wraith Star did the same thing.
Suppose you've got a war boss with what's your 2-up save armor called? Mega armor.
Mega armor, but we have no invuln, so we really need that Lookout Sir.
But yeah, you stick him at the front of a squad of looters. They fire bolters at him. You inflict 5 wounds. That should be 5 dead looters.
Just tank them.
Put 2-up saves on him. Then they fire a demolisher cannon, which is AP2 instant death, and then take a 2-up Lookout Sir, and then so 1 looter dies instead of 6 looters. You know, it's just a way of cheating wounds. That needs to be fixed, I think.
The worst ones Lookout Sir are multiple wound models that are all the same distance from the character. Because you don't have to put them all on the ones that are wounded. So Dark Eldar and Grotesques, you can put your Homunculus at the front and have him Lookout Sir onto like 3 Grotesques that are the same distance and not lose a model until you've taken something like 9 wounds.
It's obscene.
What do you make of the wound allocation shenanigans? Because there is ways you can do
Yeah.
that.
Front of house dying first. I like it, but it can be a bit annoying.
Yeah.
I think
Not necessarily wound allocation as in like closest models die, that's fine. But if you get into combat with weapons being resolved, so this dude, because you decide if everyone's in base contact. So the dude at initiative 5 goes first, he inflicts 1 wound, you put that on one of your knobs, then the next lot go and you can put it on a different guy.
Yeah.
that's just bending the rules to get an advantage, really.
Yeah, I'm not particularly angry about that, but I'm just saying, do you think that's something to be readdressed?
It is annoying. I on principle take wounded guys off first. On principle. But
Depends what kind of game you're playing. If you're playing to win, you won't, but if you're playing casually.
Our site deep struck, and I got him in combat, fired him, blah blah blah, and it ended up with like literally all of his bodyguard and crisis suits. About 4 out of 5 of them were on 1 wound left.
Yeah.
It beat you because of this.
yeah, I get that. I understand that completely.
And it was a wee bit annoying. I'm not particularly upset about that rule in particular. I think there could be a little tweak there.
Yeah. Vehicles are all right now.
Vehicles, I think they balance perfectly.
I think vehicles are in a good space. They are.
Yeah.
Maybe the lack of AP2 weapons makes them a tad survivable, particularly if they're armor 14. But I think they're all right where they are.
I'd like to see in the future things allocated with a different number of hull points than 2 or 3. Because so far there's only Land Raiders and Monoliths that have 4.
Anything with armor 14, basically, plus Soul Grinders.
Yeah, but because things get glanced to death easier now, I feel like you can allocate more hull points to vehicles without it being terrifying.
Well, one mini wargaming suggestion was that vehicles now get changed to be like monstrous creatures. They have wounds.
Then you've got your ability to poison vehicles, and it just gets silly then. You've got to rejig. That's another edition coming out, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to rejig your poison, the way that works. You've got to specify whether it just works against infantry, monstrous infantry. You know what I mean?
It was just a suggestion because monstrous creatures are so much better than vehicles.
When you look at things that are vehicles like Riptides and Dread Knights,
monstrous creatures,
which are now monstrous creatures.
Yeah, like a Carnifex costs about the same as a Rust and will absolutely win every single time against the Rust.
Yeah.
I think vehicles are, as we were saying, really in a good place. I'm not sure how much tinkering needs to be done.
Yeah.
Because in 5th, vehicles were god.
Yeah, the parking lot was just win.
I hated it because I am an infantry guy. I love my infantry. Vehicles are sort of like, I do take vehicles, but generally speaking, I want infantry-heavy armies. And watching 6 tanks face off against 6 tanks was boring as hell to me.
Yeah, and then I remember your story of your first game of 6th edition where you got glanced to death on turn 1 by Gauss weapons.
Yeah, which sixth edition, no one took vehicles, and it was too far the other way. Now I think infantry is still good, vehicles are still good. It's quite well balanced. I don't want to see, if they could get the same amount of balance between vehicles and infantry as they do with shooting and assault, I'd be
amazed,
dancing in the streets. I'd be happy.
But I think monstrous creatures are very strong at the moment.
Even with the nerf to smash, they're still pretty damn good.
I think there's one thing we've noticed with Age of Sigmar, I keep coming back to it, is that monsters get weaker as they get weaker.
Yeah, so the more wounds they take, the less attacks they have, the less shots they get. I think it's a nice mechanic. Because it makes sense, like a Khan effect with like 3 of its limbs blown off shouldn't be able to run as fast or shoot as much as it would before it's been shot.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. You could even do some kind of table.
Yeah,
that's what they have.
That's what they've got in Age of Sigmar. It's really quite nice.
The table, and then it kind of like, okay, it's had an arm blown off, so it gets one left attack.
Yeah, like a vehicle damage table for monsters.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Yeah, I like that. Right, so we've just gone on for the last half an hour and a tad about 7th edition and our thoughts on it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. Leave any comments down below. If you would like us to do some more collaborative videos, we will absolutely aim to do so. So thank you very much for watching. My name is Michael for Tactica Imperialis with Kieran and Commissar Warwick. Thank you.
That's it, yeah.
Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you all again. Bye for now.